Mate, it looks massive.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe you should be quiet.
It's pretty big.
Holy cow.
Yeah, wow, look at that. That's incredible. Holy moly. Yeah. So I've come to Grottes de Cougnac. It's about an hour drive from Les Eyzies to see a cave site with 30,000-year-old cave paintings. Now, I'm not entirely sure if I can film in there. Usually that's not the case. You're not allowed to film in a lot of these places. Probably for rightful reasons. Probably to protect the cave art, and maybe they just don't want vloggers going in all the time and, you know, ruining the experience. They want you to come see it for yourself. At this site there's 2 caves. Apparently one doesn't have cave art in it, and I might be able to film there. It's full of stalactites and stalagmites, full of stalacs. And the second one has the 30,000-year-old cave art. So I'll get some footage of outside the cave, maybe of some pictures, and I might have to add some stuff in with some narration later. The 1950s Cro-Magnon man has endowed the walls with figures and signs. 30,000 years old, some ibex, some horses.
Ces dépôts qui sont importants, peuvent atteindre des kilomètres d'épaisseur, ont alors souffert de la tectonique des plaques et se sont retrouvés réduits à la fracturation et à la fissuration. Ça disparaît en profondeur dans le calcaire et à partir du moment où on a plus d'eau, se forment les stalactites et les stalagmites.
Oui, oui, j'ai expliqué là, déjà.
So again, unfortunately I couldn't film inside the prehistoric cave, but it was sensational. A long tour. I didn't really understand a lot because my French is très mild. But yeah, it was very interesting. But once we got to the main chamber, there were some beautiful, beautiful paintings on the walls of deer, ibex, a mammoth, and using the contours of the walls in a way that sort of made it project in a sort of 3-dimensional sense. So it was really beautiful, really, really beautiful.
Mais ne gagne pas les volumes. Donc on est en déficit hygrométrique. Voilà, sous terre, il y a plus de 20 ans.
You know, I think as I'm, you know, staying under a bridge, a bit dodgy in the town of Les Eyzies, but next to the beautiful Vizier River, which is so clean and so calm. It sort of got me thinking about what the environment was like back in the Ice Age. Why are there so many sites dating to that period in the region? And especially after going to Cognac yesterday and seeing these sort of naively drawn or painted depictions of, you know, very powerful animals. So you have things like mammoths, ibex, you know, these places where these, like at the confluence, is this where these animals were migrating past in the 30,000 years ago or during the Ice Age? Is that why there's so many archaeological sites here? You know, these are all very powerful animals, very hard to hunt, but, you know, the rewards are great. So today we're going to continue the journey a bit and actually check out some reconstructions of Lascaux, the famous Sistine Chapel of cave art, or Palaeolithic cave art. So apparently they laser scanned the whole cave and then they got local artists in to reconstruct the paintings that are in there. So, and because we can't actually film in any cave art sites, they let very few people in a year to the majority of these really well-known sites. In lieu of that, we're going to check out the recreations because I'm interested. I want to see it. And even if it's not me being next to the actual paintings in the flesh, apparently it is a very true-to-life representation of those paintings. So hopefully we can film in there as well and sort of give you an idea of what it would be like to actually be inside the real Lascaux.
It seems like they put a lot of effort into the reconstruction, or the reproduction rather.
Yeah, this is huge money generator.
Yeah, huge money generated.
Yeah.
I wonder how many visitors they have each year. Must be a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of old people there today.
A lot of old people just charging through, boomer style.
Yeah, I thought they
Impatient.
would be slow. But not.
Yeah. No, I didn't appreciate
They
getting
were like
shushed.
up in my.
And then they were so loud afterwards.
They're so loud.
Yeah. But anyway, very nice. But like, I mean, how does that compare to like Rouffignac? Is that?
Oh, I think it's like totally like Lascaux and Chauvet are like on a different level of.
Yeah. Again,
it's
the
like
Sistine
the Sistine
Chapel
Chapel versus the church here.
Yeah.
It's a shame we'll never know what those symbols mean.
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, we
It's
can't
impossible to tell.
decode
Yeah, of course.
languages that we have like full alphabets for, or assume, but we just don't. There's just nothing.
But it'd be so
there's
cool.
no Rosetta Stone.
It would be so cool to be able to tell.
Yeah.
So like definitively, like that sign meant like.
Yeah.
At the same time, it could just be nothing. Like we're like, what does it mean? It might just be people going in there and be like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was here kind of
Yeah,
thing.
for example.
Yeah.
Kind of like we just go into caves and like scratch, like
Yeah, we just saw it a bit.
big dig energy.
Yeah. Big dig energy.
That's it.
Yeah.
Some of the oldest stone tools ever found, produced by members of our lineage 2.5 million years ago from Kenya. And here you can see some beautiful refits, which is where they are basically able to reconstruct the mapping sequence by putting all the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Okay, this is up my alley as a zoo archaeologist. Seen the old megafauna that existed in Europe during the Ice Age.
Pretty amazing the size of this.
Yeah, that's a mammoth femur.
Correct.
Oh, there you go.
Famous
Megasaurus. Yeah, that is massive. Can you tell me a little bit about these bifaces?
Yeah, well, actually, it's probably like the longest lived cultural artifact in human history. People first started making things like this about, I think, like 1.8 million years ago, and pretty much produced identical forms of it up until around, let's say, 300,000 years ago. The beginning of the Upper Paleolithic here, there's a very, famous and controversial kind of industry called the Châtelperronian, and it's like Paleolithic archaeology's biggest whodunit, because we have no idea whether it was produced by Neanderthals or by Homo sapiens, but it's a very kind of unique industry that it's like a real technological and behavioral rupture in the region here, like when you go through the stratigraphy.
Right.
And there's been like a massive amount of ink spilled in debates about who made it and what was the kind of the mechanisms underlying its development, with some people thinking that it's like an influence from incoming modern humans onto local Neanderthals that made them change their behavior to be more like modern humans. At least it's like an old kind of model.
Okay.
But there's like no consensus amongst researchers about who actually made it. And so this is actually exactly what I work on.
Okay.
So maybe we can find some.
Sure.
And you see these big, long, pointy boys?
Yep.
And so that's exactly the
Pointy
kind
boys.
of industry that I'm here working on. So in the
Right.
lab, this is what I'm working on. Also from the Musée, but from the new excavations.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's because there's so much history, that research history here, that it's very easy to excavate a cave and make pretty good, very accurate guesses about which time period it belongs to. So, for example, Aurignacian, which is early Aurignacian, which is around 40,000 years ago, Gravettian around 30, Solutrean around 21, and you can really tell just based on the technology and the typology, the form of the tools. It gives you a very good chance to at least relatively well date the occupation.
And so what time period would the Châtelperronian be?
Somewhere between 44 and 40,000 years ago, and it's like situated precisely at when we stop finding Neanderthals and we all of a sudden find Homo sapiens everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So it's really
Yep.
like situated at that precise moment, hence why there's so much debate and interest in this particular industry.
Because we know we have Neanderthal DNA potentially.
Exactly, yeah. But we think that introgression actually happened outside of Europe.
Okay.
So like the little bits of Neanderthal DNA that we all share, except for some populations in sub-Saharan Africa, seem to come from an event or a series of events that happened a little bit earlier in the Levant, around 60, 70,000 years ago. That's our nation. That's a little bit more. London, that should be. Ah, yes. Yes.
So this is Châtelperronian?
Yeah. And you can see like the regularity compared to like down there.
Sure.
Increases a lot, and they're making these very standardized small blades and retouching them all basically in a very similar way to create like a back, and we call them curved backed knives. And these in Châtelperronian context, you can find hundreds of them, like very, very standardized projectile elements that just don't occur in earlier periods.
And this is...
So this is basically, you have the Mousterian, which is all these kind of flake-based industries that we saw before, and then on top of that, at most sites where actually at all sites where they occur together, you have this. And this is what I was talking about, this big technological rupture that happens between the Middle and Upper Paleolithic.
And this standardization is a very modern human quality?
That's what's thought, or at least that seems to be the case. That's something. But then we have no idea who really were the producers of this. But for context, like when it was first described and discovered many, many years ago, people immediately thought it must be modern humans. Like as soon as they found these kind of standardized projectile kind of armatures, they were like, okay, this is the first modern humans in France. And then what happened was they were excavating at a very famous site called Saint-Césaire, and there they discovered an almost complete Neanderthal skeleton in context with these kind of artifacts.
Oh, wow.
The scientific world was kind of shaken, and then they had to figure out how to kind of reconcile the co-occurrence of Neanderthals with artifact types that we thought only modern humans produced. Well, here is something showing like the procedure for breaking bone and then turning it into particular types of tools.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of what you'd see for spear points or harpoon points in different parts of the world.
Yeah, and here I think it like that kind of explodes in the Magdalenian.
So yes,
It's
which
present
is
earlier, but the Magdalenian, they're considered like the reindeer people, and they were like almost exclusively hunting reindeer and then making very beautiful barbed points like this.
Right. And this was the last,
you can see some other little bits and pieces
if
here.
you want to say, culture or technological group before or at the end of the Upper Paleolithic, right?
No, then we have some after also.
You have some after.
It's the last like major group, let's say.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. Look at that. That's
amazing,
really famous, isn't it? Magdalenian.
Also this stuff, which were probably atlatls, and all individually engraved.
Spear throwers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's the tour.
Yeah, pretty much.
So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Always a pleasure.
I've got a flight to get. I'm late. So thanks for your...
Always a pleasure. No worries.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry it had to be a whirlwind tour, but check your flight schedule next time.
I will. I made a mistake. All right. Goodbye.
Cheers.